This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
What an incredible month we have had with our brother Anthony T. Browder, Tony Browder, IKG-info.com, ASA Restoration Project.com here this final day of African American History Month. But as we said early on, Dr. Carter G. Woodson would have us recognize this month and these facts, this history, 365 days a year. Tony Browder is the founder and director of IKG Cultural Resources, 43 years researching ancient Kemetic Egyptian history, science, philosophy, and culture. Traveled to Egypt 64 times since 1980. The first African American to fund and coordinate an archaeological dig in Egypt, and has led more than 30 archaeological missions to Egypt since 2009. As a part of his directorship of the ASA Restoration Project, which is funding the excavation and restoration of now 20 25th dynasty tombs in, or on, I should say, the West Bank of Luxor, Egypt. And we round out this month. We are so blessed and so thankful to have had our brother here with us this entire month, every day of the month. Thanks again, brother Hotep.
Hotep, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be with you.
Save one of the best for last. People talk about the role of women. Joe Biden, black woman Supreme Court nominee. But the fact of the matter is, in ancient Kemet, in our antiquity, women were co-rulers with men in many cases, and there were women leaders of that great and ancient civilization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All we have to do is go back to the concept of the neter or neterus, the principles or aspects of the creator. What we know for a fact is that they were assigned in complementary pairs, male and female. So every male aspect of the creator had his female counterpart. Balance, harmony. That's how life exists, through the union of male and female. So within Kemet, we've had instances of women, beginning with the story, the mythology of Asar Setenheru. Asar was the founding father of Kemet, and he took as his equal a Set. And when Asar went on his trade mission to share his knowledge with others, brothers and sisters, other civilizations, other countries on the continent of Africa, he left a Set to run their nation. So that speaks to equality, if you will. So we find in Kemet wonderful examples of other kings whose women were co-rulers. One of the best examples that I can share with you, my brother, is that of Amenhotep III and his wife, Queen T. There was a marvelous statue in the Cairo Museum of Amenhotep III sitting on the throne next to his wife. And this statue is probably about maybe 50 feet high, right? And it shows the relationship between this husband and his wife. And just to give you some historical context, they were the parents of Akhenaten, Amenhotep IV, the man that we now know as Akhenaten, who is said to have introduced monotheism. And they were, Amenhotep III and his wife, Queen T, were the grandparents of the boy king we know as Tutankhamun, or King Tut. We also have in Kemetic history a female by the name of Hatshepsut, who was a ruler in her own right. We have other Kemetic personalities, Queen Nefertari from the 17th dynasty, I believe, who was a queen in her own right. Other numerous African women, Black African women, clearly Black African women, who were regents because they did not have to prove their value, because in their spiritual system, the woman, the female aspect of the creator, is equal to the masculine aspect of creation. So they were clear about things that we have forgotten because, because we have lived for the last 2,000 years in a male-dominated patriarchal society where the rights of women, the rights of mothers, the rights of sisters and aunts have been summarily repressed and minimized simply because some males are threatened by the power inherent in female figures.
Sheikh Antajob talked to us about patrilineage versus matrilineage, and how we as an African people come from a more matrilineal society, which was reconciling to me because I was raised pretty exclusively by women. There were,
here, brother.
Yeah, you know, your mother, a great woman, God bless her as well, by the way. I mean, there were men in our lives. But, you know, I used to have to say to people, because there used to be this thing, you know, especially us growing up, and I mean, your generation was not left out of this. You know, when you're raised by a woman or a single mother, something wrong with you. And that's not only not the African way. And then, folks, when we look at the patrilineage, Prince Philip just died. Every story about Prince Philip was about how his children could not take his name. I mean, that is the most enduring story about him, and how he died subordinate to a woman. I mean, folks just lost their mind. So y'all still talking about that? They've been married 70, 80 years. But it just goes to show you the resistance. And I'm not saying that to sanitize Queen Elizabeth and the British Crown. I'm just saying that from that is the Eurocentric obsession. And it just could not be. I'm a man. And this has to be me, and this has to be my name. And you know, he went to the grave in tears, and so there has to be some reparation for what he went through as a man in that process. So, folks, it's important to understand that all of that, the patrilineage, the we call Africa the motherland. What's Europe called? What did Hitler call it? The fatherland. So that is the difference between the two cultures.
I might add as well that the glyph for Aset or Isis is a throne and an egg. A throne and an egg, representing the female is the person, the female's lineage confirms who will be the next throne. The women determine who sits on the throne. That's the matrilineal system, and you'll find that in most African countries. As a matter of fact, in Egypt, you'll find the first legal document where a woman divorces her husband and gets full possession of everything that they had. All right. You find equal rights for women is the oldest legal document known to mankind. So Africans were no strangers to truth and justice and fairness. Ma'at is a female figure. Nut is a female figure. So all of the central characters who represent the essence of the cosmos are female principles. So we would get nowhere without honoring that agent, that body, that vessel that brought all life into the world, that sacred feminine vessel.
More MIP after this message.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save money on your insurance? Of course you would. After all, who wouldn't love a great deal, right? And when it comes to great rates on insurance for all of the things in your life, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners, condo, or renters coverage. You could save even more with a special discount when you bundle your coverages. Plus, add the easy-to-use Geico mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And choosing to switch to Geico becomes an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote or contact your local agent and get started seeing how much you could save.
As we've also said, nothing is new. Tony Browder, we look at the depictions of hair, physical features. Y'all run around here with braids and cornrows, even the men, thinking that's something that you got from Allen Iverson. Where did Allen get it from, huh? So, right, Tony? I mean, the different hairstyles. I mean, there have even been artifacts of combs
Absolutely.
in ancient Kemet.
Afro picks, if you will.
Afro pick.
pick.
Hello.
Mhm.
So all of that it is, which also says something about who the people really were.
True.
Because you can have no Afro pick if you got straight European hair.
Mhm.
You don't need no Afro pick, right?
Absolutely. In my book, Now Valley Contributions to Civilization, which I am grateful for you referencing during many of these podcasts, I have a photograph of the back of the mask of King Tut. King Tut wore his hair in locks, dreadlocks, and you can see them pull back. I have a statue of a king reference, a photograph of the statue of a king in Kemet, and you will see him wearing locks. I have photographs of wigs worn by priestesses in Kemet, wigs with extensions, wigs with, hairstyles that are not unlike hairstyles that you see women wearing now, hairstyles that Africans have been wearing for over 5,000 years before our world was turned upside down. So, we study history in order to give us an understanding of where we have been and what we must do if we want to right our minds. And as I've said in my book, The Browder File, one of the things that we have to do is we have to become born again Africans. We have to resurrect in our consciousness the African origins of humanity and the African contributions to culture and civilization. We have to learn that information from ourselves because our oppressor is not going to tell us who we are because, one, they're not interested in doing that, and two, that's not their job. It's our responsibility. So what you've done this week by showcasing me throughout the entire month is an incredible opportunity for me to share my love for African people, my love for history with everyone who has a desire to want to know more about themselves.
More MIP after this message. And folks, the other point of this is other cultures had that desire. That's why they went in there and stole everything. We have to, it's like everything else. If things that other people find valuable about our culture, we have to figure out how to have the same value. If everybody is trying to take away your right to vote, it must mean something. Mm-hmm. Why does it mean more to them than it does to us? Why does chematology or Egyptology mean more to others than it does to us? And that's by design. And so we have to get ready for that. Now, the fundamental question to wind up this month, because everybody wants to know, I get calls all throughout the year. What books can I read? What can I do? We talked about forming study groups, and Tony actually has some plans and recommendations for how you can have study groups. You can do it amongst your family. I'm gonna tell y'all something. Everybody like to get together. We might get together this summer. All of us. We haven't been able to have family reunions in a few years. Why not have some knowledge and study group time at a family reunion?
Exactly.
I think it'd be a great place to do it. Gina Page is offering us our DNA. But why not have some of the same study and knowledge of information when we do that? So all those plans are there. But people want to know, and we know it's easier to read a bibliography, but we're going to tell you where to find it. But what we want to do is just touch on some things and perhaps some authors and some names. You've heard us mention a couple already throughout this month. Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben or Dr. Yosef Ben Yachanan, YOSEF BEN-YOCHANNON. But put it in Google, you'll find it. But so let me give you the floor. Give people some places to go, please.
Sure. One should be familiar with the works of our dear sister, dear ancestor, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Her significant contribution to our mental and cultural liberation is the ISIS Papers, the Keys to the Colors, where she lays out her concepts behind racism and white supremacy, which has governed our lives, ruled our lives for well over 400 years. This system that is designed to minimize our effectiveness. We have to know how our lives are being impacted in order to make or formulate plans of action to neutralize the effects of racism in our lives. The works of Asa Hilliard, the brilliant writings of Asa Hilliard. One of his favorite books, two of his books that I would highly recommend. One is The Teachings of Ptah Hotep, the oldest book in the world. The first compilation that comprised a book in the history of mankind was written by an ancient Kemetic priest by the name of Ptah-hotep. Wise instruction given to the son of a king to help this person rule their nation favorably. There's another book.
Ptah sounds like Peter.
Well, brother, okay, now you're going there. You're going there. Ptah is considered to be the Neter who was the instrument for creation. Ptah was this mound, this rock that rose out of the primordial waters upon which God brought everything into existence. So it's from the word Ptah that we derive the word Petra, which means rock, and Peter is the rock upon which Jesus built his church. So again, if we understand history and the language associated with the history, we can go back to an African source. So Ptah-hotep, teaches of Ptah-hotep, a word that we've been talking about and gave life to, the oldest book in the world. Another phenomenal book by Dr. Hilliard is Seba, The Reawakening of the African Mind. Seba is an ancient Kemetic word that means wisdom, wise teaching, learning. So Dr. Hilliard was a psychologist, was an educator, was a historian, and as an educational psychologist, one who understands the functioning of the mind and how to prepare a mind to receive information that will allow that individual to become a productive member of society, he lays out a process by which we can reawaken our minds and become productive citizens, not just of the United States, but productive citizens of the world. My book, The Browder File, which we've talked about, is a great door opener. Ivan Van Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus, The African Presence in America, is a must read. Van Sertima shared with me that, that he was denied tenure at Rutgers University for writing They Came Before Columbus. These books that I'm sharing with you now are books that I refer to as forbidden knowledge, books that are now, some people are seeking to ban right now in elementary schools, high schools, and colleges throughout the United States. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, some people have determined that there's certain information that Black folk aren't supposed to have access to, and certain historical information that would be injurious to the spirit of fragile white students, so they can't be exposed to the truth of their great-great-great-great-grandparents. So we're living in an age, man, where we're living in an age now where more information is accessible to people than at any point in time in human history. And those who want to maintain this falsely constructed system of white supremacy know that the truth will free minds, and they have to do everything within their power to suppress the truth. That's why there's this opposition to CRT, even though it's not taught in high schools, it's not taught in elementary schools. It's something that was slated specifically for college students who are on a specific track. But you know, as they say, the devil is a liar, right? And racists, to me, are the closest examples to the devil that I have seen. They're about propagating evil. They're about promoting death and destruction. They're about separating people from the resources that will help them become better people. Those are acts of the devil. Those are the acts of people who personify evil. And if we can look at this language and this behavior in that context, then it should be clear to us which side we should choose to be on, the side of the devil or the side of the light. We should want to come forth by day by reading and speaking the historical truths that our ancestors have left for us in these perilous times to overcome the obstacles that generations of our people have been struggling to overcome for so long. It's no mistake that, or no accident that our oppressors made it illegal for us to read or write, because they knew what would happen if we could recover our past. They would no longer be able to intimidate us, enslave us, frighten us, because we would know who we are and we would understand. You mentioned Gina Page and African ancestry. We would know that we carry within our bodies, within our DNA, the genetic memory of all of our ancestors going back tens of thousands of years. What they know, we have the capacity to know, right? That knowledge is accessible to us once we embrace Africa and the African genes that we carry within our body. We make it possible for those ancestors to speak to us, to inspire us. That is the essence of who we are. And that is the fear that our oppressors have, that we will recover our right minds and the game will be over for them.
And now that, folks, imagine if our ancestors knew. They were told they could not read. They were told it was against the law to read. They were told slaves obey your masters. But that's really not what it said. That was not talking about that. Imagine if they knew, fresh out of Africa, the relationship between what was going on here, that origin in Africa, a Nile Valley civilization known for its rich and fertile land. And we are brought over here to work the land. Okay. And every parable in the Bible, just about every parable that Jesus shares, is about agriculture and the land. But these are connections that we're able to make through the benefit of our knowledge. Tony's right. CRT is being used. A course taught exclusively in law school is being used to kill the teaching of Black history, not to mention all people of color history, here in this country. We've got to stand against that and stay tuned, because some people are going to start mobilizing to do something about that. We cannot go back. This is the same as saying y'all can't read.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be lynched for reading. You'll be jailed for reading. It's against the law for white folks to teach you to read. This is what we are going back to. There is no other way to look at it. I hope all of you will consider the bibliography Tony has shared. We invite you as well to go to IKG-info. Also go to ASA Restoration Project.com. This has been an incredible African-American History Month, Black History Month, African History Month, because we've not just learned. Our history did not begin during enslavement or after enslavement. We went all the way back to reclaim, to go back and fetch, have our own Sankofa. And I hope everyone appreciates it, and you will be inspired to learn more, to discuss more, to read together in study groups, and share it with your children so that they may share it with their children and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and so on. We are so thankful to our brother. He is doing some of the most important work of our generation, picking up the baton of the elders who instructed him, and one of the few really that is doing it in the way that it is being done. We need more. We don't need anybody discouraged from learning our history. We need more historians. We need more scholars. We need more researchers, more writers, more explorers, more archaeologists, more anthropologists, to get to the root of this. Let us be not discouraged in doing that. And let us go forth now and make sure it is so. My brother, thank you. And they say in Ghana, Madasi Baba, what you have done for us has been tremendous. And I know for a fact that there are some ancestors who smile upon you, and I'm very, very proud of you, Tony. Really, you have kept Dr. Welsing and Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben and Dr. Patricia Newton and Dr. Hilliard and Dr. Jope and Dr. McIntyre, just to name a few, and John G. Jackson and Chancellor Williams, Ivan Van Sertima. You have kept their names in our mouths, and we have an opportunity to be sure their names are repeated many, many more for generations to come. So you have that DNA for sure, brother. We thank you.
I'm appreciative of your opportunity to share me with your audience. And I trust that something that I said throughout the course of this month was inspirational and encourage every adult to pass on the gift of learning to some young person in their lives, so that we can empower them with the gift of knowledge. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Love you to life.
Love you to life. All right, folks. More Make It Plain tomorrow. Hope you've enjoyed African American History Month on MIP. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.